to the Adoption for Good Foundation Adoption Ministry, every 15 seconds there's another child becomes an AIDS orphan in Africa. That's 2,102,400 orphans per year in Africa alone. 143 orphans in the world today spend an average of 10 years in an orphanage or foster home. And every day, 38,493 children grow up as orphans and age out of the system. Looking at these terrifying statistics, orphan children want to be in a loving home where they can have a feeling to belong to and a place to call home and a place to feel loved and adopted. So let's take a look at a few reasons why there are so many orphans and not enough people to take care of them. There are a couple of reasons why there are so many orphans. According to Hope Walks, one reason is that there is an increasing number of HIV infected women who are of childbearing age. And as a result, when they have their own children, most of those children escape the HIV infection, but when the parents die because of that infection, those children are left orphans. There also aren't enough people wanting to take care of the older children because they are seen as troublemakers or independent and not wanting to be taken care of. And there are also issues of disease and poverty that single out children as parents would rather starve themselves than let their children starve. Unplanned pregnancies can also often lead to orphan children because they would rather give their children up to adoption than have them aborted before. So, now that we know why there are a few reasons why there are so many orphans, let's take a look at some problems orphans tend to face. Orphan children tend to face more problems than we think, most of them being emotional problems. According to an article written by James Sinrigato and Janet Namby. People as a whole don't know enough or care enough about the orphans themselves or the orphans' emotional well-being. Orphans tend to feel unloved and unwanted by people, which can cause a severe self-hatred and self-worth issues. They have nothing to go to and nobody to go to about these things. Unfortunately, people also think that children have no emotional problems, which completely disregards the fact that they do have them. It causes children to be much less open about what they are thinking, what they are feeling, and it can cause behavioral problems, according to that same article written by James Sinrigato and Janet Namby. Now that we know some problems that orphans face, and while we are just college students now, there are a couple of solutions that we can look at and actions we can take to help end the orphan epidemic and help them grow into loving families. First, we can pray for these orphans because they need it, and they need us to intercede for them on their behalf in prayer to the Lord. Also, if later on down the line you feel so called to adopt a child, that is beautiful and that is wonderful, and I would encourage you to look into orphanages, but also adoption agencies, domestic and international, to see what might be the best fit for you. These children don't need people to feel sorry for them because there are already enough of those people around. They just need people to love them and take care of them because that's what they want and need. According to the Christian Alliance for Orphans, the vast majority of adopted children show similar behavioral patterns as those who are living with their biological birth parents, so as those of non-adopted children. This means that adopted children have found a place so that they can call home, and they feel that they're in a family now and they feel loved and worth a lot. So also, if you are willing financially, please give to agencies supporting orphanages, if that's what you feel called to do. They will use this money to support adoption for these children, but also if it's an orphanage, they will support ministries that will provide food and shelter and care for these kids. So to sum up, there are too many orphans in this world and not enough people to take care of them. So what's the solution? Prayer, prayer, and then adoption, and then financial giving. So I challenge you, first of all, to submit this matter in prayer, and then also, if later on you feel called to adoption or financial giving, please do that. It's life-giving for you, but also for the orphans. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
What's your question?
Okay, so can you adopt from a foreign country?
That's a great question. Of course you can. There are different. It's different than adopting domestically because adopting internationally there are a lot more paperwork and expenses that would lead to that adoption, but it's also beautiful in its own way. But we have to remember that there are domestic orphans too, like there are orphans here in the U.S. that nobody can take care of because they're just living on the streets. So it's just kind of what you want to consider, what you want to pray for. Any more questions?
I have a question.
What's your question?
What's the difference between adopting an infant versus adopting an older child?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first of all, they're really different because one's a baby and one's not. But also, both are really beautiful in their own way. When adopting an infant, you'll be able to go through life with that child for its entire life. But when you're adopting an older child, you'll be able to love on that child and help him or her struggle with those issues together, feeling unloved and wanted by people, and then you'll be able to show them that, like, hey, I want you, but Jesus wants you even more. So that's kind of cool. So thank you very much.